Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Drums and Drams. My name's Cameron, and today I'm gonna tell you about my favorite whiskey of 2024. And yes, this is gonna be kind of an unusual video because it's not a top 5 or a top 10 or top 25 kind of list. That video will be coming at some point over the next couple weeks here on the channel. But this is a pretty easy choice for me to talk about my absolute favorite of the year. And the reason that I'm giving this its own video is because this is basically unobtainable whiskey. There's only 102 bottles of this actually produced. It's coming, I think, from a single barrel. It's extremely expensive. And so it's one of those things that if you put it at the top of your top whiskeys of the year list in that kind of a video, people are just gonna get upset, and I totally understand that. So I did a standalone video for my most disappointing of 2024. If you haven't seen that, go check that out as well. And so we're now gonna do this standalone video for my absolute favorite, no matter the cost, no matter the rarity, no matter single barrel or batched product of 2024. And that bottle in this very fancy bag, I do love the bag given the price tag on this, is this Watch Hill 20-year Kentucky Straight Bourbon whiskey. This particular bottle is batch 2, but I do believe this is a single barrel. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. 124.1 proof or 62.05% ABV. Now the first edition of this, the first batch, but again, I think single barrel, had like 40 some odd bottles, literally unobtainium type whiskey. The retail cost on that was $2,500 and the proof was, I think, like 146 or something crazy. Now, I have not tasted that whiskey, and if I had tasted it, I'm sure I would probably say that one was my favorite. But as of now, this Watch Hill 20 just kind of swooped in at the end of the year and totally blew me away. Matt Porter, ADHD Whiskey, sent me a sample of this in a blind flight, and the rest of the stuff in the blind flight was not very good. And so when I got to this whiskey, my palate had just experienced all sorts of crazy things, and I was like, whoa, I think this is really, substantially good whiskey. And then as I kept coming back to it, I'm like, what is going on here? This is incredible stuff. Come to find out, it's Watch Hill 20. I immediately had to go hunt down 2 bottles of this. I paid an arm and a leg for these. I put this up against Russell's 15, so that's a 2024 release. I put it up against Heaven Hill 17, which is a few years ago, and some other bottles as well, and it blew them all away. Now, Russell's 15 has, it's a great whiskey. Nose, palate, everything about it is amazing. I still don't think it's a perfect whiskey. I'm still gonna stand by my initial criticisms of Russell's 15, but it is amazing whiskey, and it's gonna be in my top 3 of the year easily. Even if that has maybe a slightly better nose than this whiskey, this one's a little bit more tight on the nose. The palate and the profile of this whiskey cannot be beat. And so I want to give you just kind of like a quick review of this and talk about what it is about this profile that I love so much and why I would almost flippantly, it feels like, just put it over everything at the end of the year. Like that one sample that I got was enough for me to go, I have to find a bottle of this up to, a certain price point, which is still completely unreasonable. But I have to find a bottle of this and I have to see if it's as good as this sample led me to believe. And it is. And I've put a serious hurting on this bottle already. So retail cost on this when it dropped was about $900. I think it dropped at Watch Hill proper. I don't really know. I've never been there. That's a bar down in Kentucky. I've seen a couple of reviews that the owners have done of different bottles. I saw them talk about this release. We'll keep talking about this, but I do want to nose it and taste it. Having it sit here and not drinking it is a little criminal to me. It's that good. So here we go, on the nose. Yeah, so on the nose, this is just pure balanced oak in the best way. There's a lot of sweetness to the oak. There's a lot of baking spice, but very, very sweet baking spice to it as well. There's a ton of molasses coming through from that oak. And there's also a little bit of that rickhouse funk on the back end too. But at no point does this feel over oaked. It's a 20-year bourbon, Kentucky bourbon. The rumored source of this is Heaven Hill. That's undisclosed, unconfirmed, so take that with a grain of salt. If that's the case, that totally tracks on the nose. You put it next to Heaven Hill 17 and you smell them side by side and you're like, oh, okay, this makes Heaven Hill 17 seem kind of silly. And that's a pretty crazy thing to be able to do because that's an amazing bottle. But this is so dark and so rich and so concentrated that it reminds me of, some of those old Willet purple tops, both the Bernheim stuff, rumored Bernheim and the rumored Heaven Hill. It reminds me of both of those in different ways. Just like pinnacle of whiskey type stuff going on here. I think it competes with Michter's 20. I think I might even like it better than the Michter's 20 I had the other day from 2014. That was a sample scent and a blind flight as well. I think this probably beats that. Let's go to the palate now, and we'll talk about that. Cheers. This is just unbelievable. The minute it touches your tongue, it just does this. It grips everything, not in an overly tannic way, but it just, oh, I got goosebumps. It's like oak perfection. And I love oak on whiskey. And I think even people that hate heavily oaked whiskeys, I don't think they hate this. Because it's so balanced. Like, it does have grip. It does have antique oak, antique leather, sort of dusty notes going on here. Very, very like rich molasses, chocolate, pecan pie filling type notes to it. It's almost like if you made taffy out of oak, if that was even possible. But I still don't think oak haters are going to hate this whiskey. And if you like Russell's 15, Heaven Hill 17, any sourced Willet Purple Tops, then you're going to adore this whiskey. If you like Michter's 20, you're gonna adore this whiskey. I heard that the price of these barrels when they were like on the market, which is crazy to think that 20-year whiskey is on the market and distilleries aren't holding on to that. Like, I don't know where they came from, if they came directly from this distillery, if it happened to be Heaven Hill or not. But I heard about the barrel cost, which I'm not gonna say here. It's exorbitant. Like, they were very expensive. And so you look at the cost of these bottles, and you might see this at $900, 100 bottles. You do the math in your head and you go, wow, someone is gouging the crap out of us. If the barrels cost what I heard they cost, then this is like a reasonable margin on these bottles. And the only reason I bring that up, I don't want it to be tacky to talk about money too much like that, but I bring it up so that there's not that criticism, lobbed at these guys for selling at this price point. I think it's a reasonable price point considering the stats, considering the rarity, single barrel, very, very rare unobtainium type barrels that they got their hands on for this. And obviously they picked a damn good one. So I just want to say hats off to the Watch Hill guys for bottling this. This is for me the best whiskey of 2024 by a pretty decent margin. For those of you out there, if you're in town in Kentucky, I think they have pours of these at the bar from what I've heard. That's totally unconfirmed. But if you have the chance to try a sip of this whiskey, or God forbid, batch one at that hazmat proof, it's worth it. Like, it's really worth splurging and spending a significant amount of money on a pour, because this is that kind of experience that is going to, like, the whiskey will be the experience, not the occasion. The occasion doesn't then dictate that you get a good whiskey for it. This is like you go in and you're creating the occasion by having a pour of this kind of a whiskey. So I love it. I could keep gushing about it all day. And I know I'm gonna get a lot of hate in the comment section. I know I'm gonna get people that are gonna complain, and there are also gonna be people that, are gonna be indifferent to this or excited for the opportunity to try this kind of a whiskey. But this gives me a lot of hope. And that's another reason I wanted to make this video. It gives me a lot of hope for things that might appear on the barrel market in the coming years, because this year we're seeing a lot of the Buffalo Turkey 15 and 16 year hitting, and that's stuff that no one would have ever expected, right? And when stuff like this pops up, like 20 year, there are other places, Oakley Spirits, it's a new company. The Preservation Distillery has bottled some 20-year stuff, and I don't know if it's the same source as this, but in my mind, I'm thinking maybe it could be. And so to see this stuff, continuing to come out in the barrel market at a time when people are like, from COVID till now, there's been some concern about, oh man, there's not enough aged whiskey, and there was this kind of shortage, it felt like a few years ago, to now when we're seeing amazing stuff hitting the market and NDPs getting their hands on really, really good barrels. I think it's just an exciting time for whiskey. I know the prices are still really high on certain things, but at the end of the day, I think supply is going to catch up, if it hasn't already, to demand. And I hope that we start seeing even more really cool, highly aged whiskeys like this coming from NDPs. So again, hats off to these guys. This is a beautiful, beautiful whiskey, and I'm so glad I have the opportunity, unfortunately, to pay a lot of money to get a couple of these bottles. So thank you guys for checking this out. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know in the comments if this video was really stupid, and if it was, I get it. Constructive criticism is always welcome, but I hope this isn't another laser code type thing. Or last year, I put a single barrel as my top of the year, a 13th Colony single barrel from the Bourbon Junkies, and I got a lot of hate for that, but I think this deserves all the praise in the world. So cheers, guys, and I'll see you soon here on Drums and Drams.